people. Welcome to my virtual couch. Happy Friday to you all. I have a special guest today that I'm very excited about, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. We are talking about a very important topic that people just don't talk about because of fear, shame, etc., etc. So today we're bringing the topic of pregnancy loss to you. So I would like to introduce Miss Katherine Hensley, and I will let you introduce yourself. Hi, Katherine. Welcome to the virtual couch.
Thank you, Therapist Pam. I'm super excited to be here with you today and to talk about this important topic.
Yeah. So, why don't you introduce yourself in your line of work? What do
Sure.
you consider yourself?
So I go by Katherine Hyde-Hensley, and I call myself a behavioral health psychologist. And so I'm also a full spectrum doula in my previous life. And so
Wow.
I really combine a lot of all things mom, baby, body, and boobs into everything I do. So I am the proud mother of 3 young adults, and my third well, I have 4 children, but my third was born still at
Mhm.
full term, and her name is Helen, and she is why I do this work.
Wow. So you have a personal connection.
I
I'm
do.
so sorry to hear about your loss. I'm sure we'll talk a little more about that later on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my background is in I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I'm a licensed addiction counselor, and I'm a certified perinatal mental health provider. So
Mhm.
I do it all.
Yeah, I love that. Motherhood is something that is really near and dear to my heart ever since I became a mom. So I think it's great to have you here. Thank you so much. So why don't we start off by what would you say are the myths about pregnancy loss or pregnancy grief? And what's the correct term? Is it pregnancy loss? Is it pregnancy grief? What would you say is the proper
You
terminology?
know, I think you have to ask the expert, because the expert is the mother or the birther. And so, what are the myths around pregnancy loss or infant death, or is that families get over it fast, and that we sometimes are martyrs or get stuck in our sadness and we can't seem to move on.
Yeah.
In reality, all we really want from our friends and family is to ask us about our baby and help let us share what we're ready to share at that time.
Yeah, and I find that sometimes the loved ones don't know how to handle it, and sometimes can when I'm talking to my clients, give really bad advice, like, "Oh, get over it. Oh, you'll have another one," which is really not the best way to handle that.
It's actually on those 2 things are on the list of what not to say.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so in your line of work, how would you say that pregnancy loss impacts one mental health? How does it show up?
Well, in the first few days, weeks, sometimes 6 months, it is a fog of dysfunction. It disables our ability to cope. It impairs all levels of functioning. It compromises our ability to adapt to life when what's happening. It increases our distress, and all these things complicate the mourning process.
Yeah. So if I was a loved one and I have a family member suffering from pregnancy loss,
Mhm.
how will I how do I support them, right? So you're mentioning all the ways that it impacts
Mhm.
their functioning, right? But sometimes it might show it up at the areas that they may not realize, right? So how do I support them?
Yeah. So, it's kind of maintaining those early days of functioning, helping them eat, sleep, and drink. So, you may often we feel we're not hungry, we don't want to eat, we don't want to make decisions.
Hmm.
So, offering and kind of making the birther eat a small meal, eat regular small meals, make sure they're getting sleep.
Yeah.
All of these things are so vital of just sitting in the distress with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that, sitting in the distress with them, because I find that often loved ones, we want to help them hurry up and make and feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're helping, but I think, yeah, that's a part of the healing process I'm hearing, is sitting in it with them.
It is. It is. And then, as the reality starts to set in and everything around the family starts to go back to normalcy,
Mm-hmm.
extremely isolating because the mother and the father and maybe even the grandparents or the caregivers are stuck longer in the outside community, the secondary community. And so being able to kind of help them bridge that gap of starting to do some normal things again,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that they're gonna kind of trip back into their puddle. I like to call it a puddle. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I sometimes have clients that feel like if they get back to a sense of normalcy, that means they're not grieving, or they feel guilty.
mhm.
Um, they feel as though that they're not probably mourning the baby, right? So they want to continue to not be functional and things like that. What do you say to that?
So it's actually really good to take a break from the distress. Because if you were to sit in the puddle and be completely traumatized all the time, you would need major help. You would need help. So often moms will say, "Oh, we went to the movies and I laughed," or "I actually found myself doing something and enjoying it." And I'm like, good. You
Mm-hmm.
need to enjoy small doses of returning to some sense of normalcy. But
Yeah.
but knowing that you always have your baby in their memory with you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so small doses allows the nervous system to go, we're not in crisis.
Yeah.
It's just been intense.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, are there stages of loss that are more traumatic, right? And I know, sometimes I'm hearing things in my head like, you know first first trimester versus third trimester, right? You also talked about, your baby was still, right? Are there ranges of trauma with this loss?
Yeah, so it's hard. We can't measure trauma, right? Because
Hmm.
it's kind of it's on a spectrum and it's a fulcrum, but it's in the eye of the birther. So
Hmm.
how did the mother, just for simplicity, the mother, if she saw this event as a pregnancy or a miscarriage or products of conception, that's important information about how she views the pregnancy. Some
Hmm.
women are all immediately parents when they become positively pregnant.
Hmm.
And so for some women, 8 weeks is a baby and they are
Yeah.
parents. So it's important to kind of follow the lead of the woman to see where she is in naming her experience.
Hmm.
But more specifically, to answer your question, is our society calls miscarriage a loss at before 20 weeks of gestation.
Okay.
Um, Technically, 24 weeks is viability. So a lot of times we'll lose a pregnancy or a baby at 22 weeks, and it just kind of gets stuck in this ambiguous place. Technically, a stillbirth is a baby that dies after 20 weeks of gestation.
Okay.
No harder, no more important, no more devastating than a miscarriage but it's in the eye of the mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
My
Hmm.
daughter was 38 weeks and 3 days away from her scheduled section. So pretty traumatic to
Yeah.
go home to toddlers with an empty
Yeah.
car seat.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I like that you put that on the mom because I do think that some society, you know, lessens the trauma. You know, if the mom was pregnant at like 6 weeks, right, versus 20 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot, which is it's up to the mother.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I
Wow.
think this is a good place to talk about the generational differences too,
Yeah, let's do it.
from our mothers, our sisters, our grandmothers, and the fact that culture has played a huge part in this as to how it is viewed by the family. Our
Mhm.
mothers were not allowed to see their babies, they were
Yeah.
taken from them. A lot of heartbreak and hard healing. And so this is why we encourage moms to see their babies and name their pregnancies, name their children, um, build connection with
Mhm.
their family.
Wow.
We always recommend it. And
Yeah.
even if they don't want to, and
Yeah.
they'll allow us to take pictures, we actually hold on to those and save them for later. That
Yeah.
is my biggest tagline is minimize your regrets and maximize your memories.
Mhm.
You're in grief and fog and fight, flight, freeze because your baby
Mhm.
died,
Yeah.
you really need the people around you to say, I think you might want pictures later.
Mhm.
Some other families have done it this way.
Yeah. Okay, Catherine. So, what would you say is a what does a therapy session look like for a mom or for the mother dealing with this?
Yeah,
Because they may be wondering, how's therapy going to help me? What would
sure.
you say?
Well, in the beginning, I help them understand that we're really not going to cover a lot of ground in helping them feel better. But what we're going to do is we're going to start to help them accept and just sit in the distress. So I let
Mhm.
them know that the first couple of sessions, it's really about getting to know one another. I want to hear their birth story over and over and over
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
It's about building rapport and trust.
Mhm.
And I often end up crying with them
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
they need to talk about it. I make
Yeah.
sure that I ask it for details. I try to ask for positive details.
Mhm.
All the while, I'm trying to collect what was the glitter in the pregnancy? What was baby's
Mhm.
favorite food? Where did they go? Did they go to a movie or a ball game or to visit Aunt Sue? Um,
Mhm.
trying to really help them have some memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
And I'm taking some notes because I'm learning how to help the moms in my own session. When you said sitting with them and having them tell their birth story over and over again, is that because it's also helping them process? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah, as doulas, that's what we really do is we often when we meet the mom in any with any birth trauma, even if
Mhm.
it's just postpartum and there's no death, we
Mhm.
still need, they may have had the loss of the labor, the loss of the
Yeah.
beautiful water birth.
Yeah.
And so having them tell me what it was like for you. Were any of your choices taken into consideration?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and really try to learn about their family system and who is a helper, who shows up for you when you need help.
Yeah. Because that support system is crucial at
Mhm.
that time.
Yeah,
Yeah. Any homework that you would give, anything that you would give them to take away or
right.
work on?
Well, I impress upon them how important it is to sleep and that they are taking care of their nutrition and their water and that they are exercising, even if it's just 15 minutes to the mailbox and back or to the end of
Mhm.
the street and back.
Mhm.
Um, they
Okay.
often have those ruminating, anxious thoughts that prevent them from falling asleep. And then if it was very traumatic, they may have intrusive traumatic dreams and in intrusive thoughts around losing their baby. So it's a delicate dance of helping them process what they can in a very slow way so as not to shock them.
Yeah. Are
'Cause
there a number of sessions you would recommend or no?
no, I think that, I love therapy. I think therapy is always needed. And what I say to my moms is, it kind of like as a doula, my job was to work myself out of their life to get them to a point where they didn't need support. And I do the same thing with therapy is we get you to a point where you can go 3 weeks. Okay, maybe you can go 4 weeks. Maybe you want to try going 2 months, you know, once a client, always a client, because I hold that history for them and I'm that safe place that when things start to come up, they can trust that I'll still hold space with them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, what kind of pregnancy grief are, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. I'm going to ask again, what kind of pregnancy grief are more complex and difficult to treat?
Well, one I'm facing right now is a mom. It was her fourth live birth. She had 12 miscarriages off and on throughout her reproductive journey. And her last live birth was of twins.
Oh,
They had a hard gestational time together.
okay.
And they were in the NICU for a while. And then when they got home on day 26, one of the twins died in her sleep.
Oh, geez.
And mom's not doing well at all.
Oh my goodness, she has been through it. So it's like she finally made it and still something happened. Oh, yeah, that's very complex.
And so she's facing hard times with bonding with her living child,
Yeah,
her
yeah.
trusting her partner.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, yeah, I know she wants nobody near her child.
and this is when assessments are really important.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I do start new with a client, I always assess for postpartum depression with the Edinburgh. I do a general anxiety disorder measure as well as a depression measure,
Mm-hmm.
and I use those throughout their course of treatment to see if it's working or not working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And when we see that it's not working, it's time to upgrade the help. And so
yeah.
luckily here, I'm in North Carolina, and we have a wonderful postpartum intensive care unit at
Mm-hmm.
Chapel Hill
Mm-hmm.
that works with severely traumatized mothers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have access to a higher level of care when we need it.
Great. I'm so glad that she's with you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she definitely needs that support all around. Yeah. Wow. So I did ask earlier, how does a family member support the mother going through grief? Are there any other, other than ensuring that they are functioning, eating, sleeping,
Yeah,
are there any other ways that they can also be of support?
absolutely. So important milestones. The day, if it was a loss before she delivered, her due date is going to be a very hard day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Holidays,
Mm-hmm.
birthdays, anniversaries, the day she found out she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
All of these dates are going to cause that sadness and that to resurface.
Mm-hmm.
And what we know about anniversaries is it's not so much the day, it's the days leading before the day.
Yeah.
So it's anticipatory grief. She's starting to anticipate the anniversary. So the things that families can do is put it on your calendar,
Yeah.
know what the dates are, and be prepared to check yourself.
Yeah.
Always have a card or a sweet text message or some type of support to send her to say, I'm thinking about you today. I know this would have been Helen's 3rd birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Even the months, even after a baby's born, what would have been their 9-month or their 6th-month visit,
Mm-hmm.
every month
Mm-hmm.
relive the loss.
Yeah, because the mother is tracks everything. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great feedback to give loved ones, especially partners that just don't know how to help.
Right. And then as far as holidays, it's about if she gave you a picture of her baby or a birth announcement, make sure that's out on display at the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
or that a special ornament is placed
Mm-hmm.
on your tree to represent her sadness, her broken heart.
Yeah.
Helping them make mementos
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
allows them to parent. That's parenting.
I have a client that had a miscarriage and now she's pregnant again. And there's such anxiety
Mhm.
surrounding the pregnancy, right?
Correct.
What are some recommendations or suggestions you would have on how to go through this pregnancy journey, which the anxiety, warranted from the miscarriage?
Absolutely.
What would you recommend?
It is huge. It is the most anxious pregnancy anyone will ever carry. And we call it a rainbow pregnancy. And it's also called PAL, pregnancy after loss. And both postpartum support and Star Legacy have free weekly support groups for pregnancy after a loss. And so, having led those for many years and doing them on my own, and this is what my research is centered around, is pregnancy after a loss, and how do we help that mother attach in an appropriate and fulfilling way as a parent while she's growing her rainbow baby. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent attachment disorders and anxiety and depression on the tail end of having a live baby. So there's a wonderful book by my favorite mentor, Joanne O'Leary, and it's called Different Baby, Different Story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And so taking it week by week through gestation.
Yeah.
First, you're in denial.
Yeah.
Trying to start to accept it.
Yeah.
Now, okay, it's viable. We might actually buy some socks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Baby steps for sure. So any resources for the mother, for families that they can reach? And I also will put resources in the description box as
Wonderful. Well. My favorite go-tos, there's 2 top ones. Well, 3. Let's do 3. First is starlegacyfoundation.com, has family resources for grandparents in Spanish, fathers. They have a father's support group. In the early days, support group is a real comforting place. And it's not that we're sitting around talking about how our baby died. We're talking about how we got through the day and we're able to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so you learn a lot in support groups.
Mm-hmm.
The second is Postpartum Support International, has wonderful, and these are free groups at Star Legacy. And also Postpartum Support International has free support groups from everything to IVF to termination for medical reasons, stillbirth, miscarriage. They divide it out so that you're in a cohort with appropriate parents. And lots of wonderful mental health resources. And then in the subsequent pregnancy, I really like Push for Empowered Pregnancy. They're based out in Metro New York, and they are some bold, mad mamas. They are lovely and and they are going to push to change the way we look at stillbirth and infant death to make sure that we're preventing these rather than trying to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. So where can people reach you? And are you accepting new clients? Because I'm sure that's going to be the question.
So what I like to say is I never turn away a client,
Wow.
especially a grieving mother, because it takes a lot of energy to pick up the phone or to send that email and say, I'm hurting and I'm scared. And you don't need to be trying to track down somebody who's willing to sit with you.
Yeah.
So yes, always make room. And my email address or my website is my full long name. It all runs together, KatherineHyde-Hensley.com, as well as my Instagram feed, which is here in my name, is the underscores. Katherine underscore at is my Instagram handle. And so, yeah, I love to hear from people. I love to hear stories, and I love advocacy. I think that that's how we heal as mothers of loss. When we start to come out of the fog and learn how to breathe again, we start to advocate so that no one else has to hurt the way we are.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface with this topic. And so I'm going to actually name this part 1, because we definitely need to have a part 2, because we have not even talked about birth trauma and what that means. So that definitely look forward to digging into that. So we're definitely going to have you back. And thank you so much for visiting.
Yes.
And thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Pam. Bye-bye.
Bye.